Thank you for joining us on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout, and it's time for the defending champions to take the field. England taking on Scotland in Group B, day game being played out in Barbados. And to look ahead to that game, we're joined by former England player and now, of course, commentator and analyst Nick Knight. Nick, so glad you can join us on the show, and I'm going to get straight to the business now. From an England perspective, build up to this World Cup, of course, defending champions in 2022, but then you've won only 4 of 12 T20Is. You've lost all 3 bilaterals that you've played. How seriously do you take that record, given the fact that in most of those games or bilaterals, you haven't had a full-strength squad?
I think, fair enough. Obviously, when you're coming into a major tournament, you want good results behind you. I think, though, when you look at the results, so much, maybe more now in the modern day where there's so much cricket, sides are just maybe looking slightly experimentally at some of their squads and some of their teams for some of these bilateral series. Some players are injured, some players are not available. I personally am not concerned by perhaps some of the recent results in terms of how that will, mentally affect the team. I think they're in a really strong place mentally. I think that is in complete contrast actually to how it was for the last World Cup, the 50-over World Cup in India. I think there's a direct sort of contrast in the approach. I think the selection process, I think there was inconsistencies there, uncertainty about who was going to play what role, who was even going to be in the team. I don't see any of that this time around. I see real clarity, regardless of some of the results. Obviously they just played against Pakistan at home, 2 good wins out of 2. There was a 4-match series, 2 washed out. I think they arrived at this World Cup in a really good place mentally.
So then what was your 11 be, Nick? Because that's quite a squad to choose from, and then to trim it down to 11.
It is. All sides are going to have the same issues here. I think when you're looking at final 11s, clearly when you're not at the ground and you don't see the pitches, there's a slight element of uncertainty there. However, 9, 10 would be certainties. I would be very surprised if England don't line up something along the lines of Salt, Butler, Will Jacks, I think is a certainty at number 3. Then you're looking at Johnny Bairstow at number 4, Harry Brook at number 5. Then you're getting into sort of Moeen at 6 as far as I'm concerned, then Livingstone at 7. Then I would play Jordan probably at 8. Then you're looking at Rashid, who's a certainty, at number 9. Then you're looking at Archer, who's a certainty at number 10. And then I get to that sort of, do I play Reece Topley or do I play Mark Wood? And there's a number of factors that sort of contribute to the way I would go with that. 1, the opposition. Mm-hmm. And 2, more importantly, the conditions. So you're looking at, if it's a slowish pitch and you think cutters are going to play a major part, which I suspect they probably are, then I would probably lean towards Reece Topley and not Mark Wood. The counter to that slightly is you're playing against a side like Scotland in your first game that probably don't want both Archer and Wood to play in the same team because of that extra pace, and they're not used to that extra pace. So on a regular basis, so it might push you down that route a little bit. But if you go, it's that conundrum a little bit. Do you go opposition or conditions? I would generally always favour conditions. That would be my side. I'd probably go Reece Topley as my final pick out of that 11. I'm a big fan of Reece Topley. I think he provides that left arm option and plenty of variety.
Nick, the Jofra Archer question, no doubt about his ability, no doubt about talent, no doubt about, that game winner, that game changer that he can be. But it's the fitness, it's the lead up to the tournament. Are you convinced that he can see out this tournament?
It's a really good question, and it's something that we're all spending a lot of time trying to analyse and hope. Well, it's really fingers crossed. I think he's done everything possible to be in a position where he can do exactly that. And then you're down to just how the body copes. It is a little bit of an uncertainty. It's a little bit of suck and see and find out, because I don't really know that we can be 100% sure. What we can be 100% sure of is that he's given himself the best chance to be in that position. England will look after him. If there's any chance of any needing a bit of a break or a rest, that is the beauty with Mark Wood. And I just mentioned the Topley Wood thing, but if Joffrey doesn't play or needs a rest or needs just a little niggle that needs a few days to recover, you bring Mark Wood straight back in. So in some ways they're not like for like replacements, because you might want to play them in the same team, but they kind of might fit into that role a little bit, depending on how Jofra Archer can stay fit and strong throughout the tournament. You're absolutely right. It is quite a pivotal. It's really crucial, I think, that he stays fit. But if he doesn't, they've just about got the option to cover it. Absolutely.
Nick, if I could put you on the spot, and from that lineup that you've given us right now, for you, the three players who could be pivotal if England are to go on and defend this World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because so many good players in that 11/15. Okay, you're going to put me on the spot. I'll come up with three for you. I think first and foremost, for me, you look at the captain. Not because he's the best player in terms of the game changer, the proven T20 player, probably one of the best the T20 format's ever seen. So when you're looking at a side, he will be that sort of gun player at the top of the order. There's obviously the captaincy there, and there's that question mark a little bit over the Mott Buttler dynamic as captain and coach. So he's going to want to put that to bed a little bit. He's going to want to push that to one side after what happened in the last World Cup. So his decision making, I think, is going to be crucial there. The clarity that he provides the team with his decision making. The other thing that I think is really important when you look at captains in T20, they've got a lot of analytics. They've got a lot of information that's being forced at them from left, right, matchups. Who do you bowl when? How do you play this situation? And that'll be crucial for Jos Buttler to get his own mind, clarity in his own mind about which way he's going with that. So there's a number of factors why I think Jos Buttler is a key player. But for all of that, my number one key player, if England are going to win this competition again, my number one key player, and I'm absolutely certain about this, is Adil Rashid. Because you can talk about the power England got at the top of the order, unquestionably. You can talk about the pace with Archer, you can talk about the spin options they've got. But for me, these games, one of these games, maybe two of these games, if England are going to progress, are going to come down to key moments in the middle of the innings, and it's going to be Rashid. Can he turn a game? Can he work with the strength of the pace bowlers have put the team in? Can he just do something a little bit special? Because that's what he does. He is super special. I mean, no one's a bigger fan of him than me right now, and I just think that if England are going to do really well in this competition, it needs an A+ performance, as is expected really from Adil Rashid. And my final pick is going to be Moeen Ali. And let me explain why I've gone with Moeen Ali. Not so much because of conditions and spin. The reason I've gone with it is a couple of reasons, really. One, when you look at England's top order, what we think will be the top order, it's going to be the top five. And they're right-handers, yeah? So we think that it's going to be a right-hand dominant top five. Now, in which case, I think England at times might need to be a little bit flexible. It might even be against Scotland, with Watt coming on and bowling left arm spin. It might be that you want to just put your left-hander up in that 3-4 position just to play out a certain situation. So where I'm going with Moeen is flexibility. And I think Moeen will have to come in and out of the attack with his off-spin. I don't always see him bowling 4 overs, but he might just bowl 1 over, come back out, then bowl 1 over and come back in. And so I don't see his role actually being perhaps as clear as some of the others, and with that will become quite tricky at times. And so I'm putting him into my top 3 because I think at times, England might not get off to a flying start, and it might be Moeen at 6 who has to guide them to a good score. It might be Moeen at 6 who has to get them over the line when it gets a bit tight and the top order haven't performed. It's that sort of pivotal role that I'm going to sort of think that Moeen is going to have to play really well if England are going to win consistently and win the final down the line. So there are my 3 players, and that is my reasons why.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Nick. Moving on to Scotland now, who are playing now in their 4th consecutive T20 World Cup. What can we expect from them?
Fight, determination, self-belief. I think they will be realistic and realise they're underdogs going into this first game against England. Do I think they'll put England on this sort of higher platform, plinth, etc., thinking we can't compete? No, I don't think they will. I mean, they played really well last time out against the West Indies. in that first game. They've got players that can upset even the very best players in the world. Maybe conditions might even suit them a little bit. They've been out there, they've played some warm-up games, they've got themselves used to conditions, they've got an attack where they can take the pace off the ball, they've got an attack that will go away from the right handers a little bit. Clearly they're not favourites. They're going to push. They're going to push really hard, and they're in quite a good position in that sense because they are the underdog, and they've got a chance to do something really special. And as you rightly say, a lot of these players are not in an unfamiliar situation, unfamiliar circumstances, because they've been in this position before in these tournaments. A number of players, or a few of the players, have been involved in an under-19 World Cup in the Caribbean. So, they can pass on knowledge of these conditions a little bit. Some of them, a few of them have been playing county cricket. So, back in the UK. So they'll have an idea. Brad Wheel, Brad Curry, these kind of guys will have an idea of some of the players a little bit more closely. So, as well as just watching them and not playing against them as much. They're going to be competitive. I'd be surprised if they're not competitive, but clearly England are strong favourites.
Great. Nick, thank you so much for joining us, and lovely having you with us on the show. We, of course, will join him tomorrow as well, building up to that game. That one between Scotland and England. You were watching Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricinfo Timeout.
Introducing the epic new Swift. Time to go Swifting.